So people are beginning to question, what does our democracy really mean? When you have President Trump being arrested on 34 totally bogus charges. Look, the thing is, I don't understand why people are so shocked by what's happening. I think that we've been living under an illusion for a very long time, where we've thought, oh yeah, we have a democracy. Oh yeah, this is normal. What's happening around the world where we're occupying other countries? This isn't normal. What's happening to President Trump isn't normal, but it isn't anything new. One bright side of this case is at least that finally, after so many years, it seems like the majority of people are waking up to what has been the case all along. Look at what they did to Lyndon LaRouche. I'll put a link in the description, but if you look at the railroad against LaRouche that was put together by actually no one other than Robert Mueller himself, who is also the person now going after Trump, you will be blown away by the insanity of the case against LaRouche that was brought together in the 80s by Kissinger, the Soviets, and other bad actors. They devised phony charges against Lyndon LaRouche, just like how they're doing now with President Donald Trump. And you want to know why? Because he was proposing a way to end the threat of nuclear war. The SDI would have been a game changer for the way that we would work and cooperate with other nations. And because he was actually echoing the same message that FDR gave to Winston Churchill,
I'm going to do what Roosevelt promised to do in 1940-42. What Franklin Delano Roosevelt, of all people, promised to do, I'm going to do it. Now, Roosevelt promised to Churchill at the Atlantic meeting and the Casablanca meeting. He said, no more will the United States fight world wars to save the British Empire in any shape or guise.
That kind of message is why they put him on trial and they put him ultimately to a political death. So that's why when you hear the word LaRouche, oh, it's a cult. Oh, these people are evil, mean, bad, and nasty. Oh, they're anti-Semitic. Oh, they're whatever. It's because they were actually proposing what FDR told Churchill. And that was the reason why the United States was founded. We were founded to end colonialism, to end imperialism. The United States had as its mission when it was born to end empire, to realize a kind of experimental new government that really was of the people, by the people, through the people. And that's what so many Americans throughout history have believed in, fought for, and died for. That's what Lyndon LaRouche believed in, and that's what Abraham Lincoln believed in. Furthermore, that's what I believe in. And if you believe in that too, then you should join us. Join our organization or work together with us on these goals that we have. Let me ask you, what kind of world do you want? Very few people, and no one with any sense, is going to say they want a world filled with war. We need to have Socratic conversations with each other. We need to have Socratic conversations with other nations. We need to have Socratic conversations across the world. One thing that the LaRouche organization, the Schiller Institute, is big on is the fact that although patriotism is of course a necessity, you also need to be, in some sense, a world citizen. Everything that happens today has a global effect. When we have nuclear weapons, where if one of them is exchanged, we essentially have a nuclear genocide of the entire planet. What happens in Ukraine affects everyone. What happens with Taiwan affects everyone. The United States is threatening now to invade Mexico. Now, if you look at history, all throughout history, empires start to collapse when they spend far too much on their military that they can't really handle. They don't have the economy to support. Look what's happening now with inflation and the complete crumbling of our infrastructure. We're already behind China on development of infrastructure. How are we going to win a war when we're so spread out trying to fight a war with basically the global majority? They say the rules-based order. Everyone agrees to it. Well, who they mean by everybody is just the West. And the West is not united anymore. You can see that by what's happening in France with the French protests. These protests are not just about pensions. They're a reaction to the horrible things that are happening to Europe right now, where they're being forced to go into austerity to maintain the US's imperial interests. This is in no way beneficial to the average European person. Staying inside of the United States system is not of benefit to Europe anymore. So what are we going to do as Americans, and what are we going to do as global citizens? Well, tonight we're going to have a discussion between several of our friends. Some libertarians, some communists, and some people from the LaRouche movement are going to be having a conversation on what makes someone truly presidential. What would a really good president do on their first day within Washington? How are they going to address the crisis at hand today? What makes a really competent president? You're not going to want to miss that conversation. Watch that conversation, and before you do, think about it yourself. If you were president, what would you do to ensure that the United States has a future and that future works together for nations around the planet? If you were president, what would you do to ensure that the world has a future, that we could experience an actual boost in our quality of life rather than having it rapidly depleted, that we could actually be excited to be human again? You know, a lot of young girls in my generation, if you ask them how they feel about having children, they're actually scared. They don't want to have children because they say, well, why would I bring a child into this horrible, horrible world? And that's something that you hear quite often from young girls of my generation. We need a world where people are actually wanting to give birth again. We need a world where people feel like the future has prospects for the offspring that they may give birth to. And that is where true human dignity and value comes, is when you could feel like you're actually contributing to making a better world. You feel like you're actually contributing to something bigger than just yourself. Good government is a government that beautifies its population, that makes its population able to be the best, that gives the individual the potential to be their best self. That's why Helga Zepp LaRouche's Principle 4 on her Principles for the New International Security and Development Architecture, of course, includes universal education. The fact that there are still people who are illiterate on this planet, the fact that like 70 to 80% of people graduating in Los Angeles County schools can't even read at a comprehensive level, this is a complete catastrophe. This should be priority number one. Not fighting with China. We should be working together with China on the things that benefit both the United States and China and the rest of the world. Thank you.